Hello there, 4th and 5th graders, and welcome to your next math lesson. Today's math lesson is called Simplest Form, so please open up your math notebook to the next available page and write that title at the top. Simplest Form. Okay, in order to talk about simplest form, let's start with an example of a fraction. Go ahead and make a pizza with me, and let's give it crust. And let's give it pepperoni. I actually make pizza a lot because I have a pizza oven at my house that I built in my backyard. It's a lot of fun. And we could put some mushrooms on it if you like mushrooms. Maybe just a few. Okay, that's enough. That's enough toppings. Now let's cut this pizza into 8 slices. So cut it in half and then cut it in half again. Now that's 4 slices. Now cut each of those fourths in half again, and it'll be in 8 slices. So this pizza's in 8 slices. Now let's say you start eating, you're pretty hungry, so you eat this piece, and you eat this piece. And after you eat those 2 pieces, you're pretty much done. So how much of the pizza do you have left? Well, you have 6 out of the 8 slices left. Remember, a fraction has a numerator and a denominator. The denominator shows the total number of something, or all the parts inside of the group. And so you started off with 8 total slices, so the denominator is 8. The numerator shows either the part you ate or the part you still have after you eat, just the part of whatever you're talking about. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 slices left, so the numerator is 6. Now, 6/8 is a way that we can show this value, but it's not the simplest form way to show this value. So what does it mean to put a fraction in simplest form? Well, basically it means we show a fraction's value using the smallest numbers possible. Like for instance, we could show the fraction 1/2 as 5 billion over 10 billion. Or we could show it as 10 over 5, or we could show it, 5 over 10, or we could show it as 6 over 12, or we could show it as 9/18. There's lots of different ways that we can show that value of 1/2. As long as the numerator is exactly half of the denominator, we've shown the fraction, the value of the fraction 1/2. But there's only one way to show the fraction 1/2 in simplest form, and that's 1/2. Because that's showing that value using the smallest numbers possible for the numerator and the denominator. Another way of thinking of a simplest form fraction is that it's showing a fraction using numbers where the greatest common factor of both the numerator and the denominator is 1. And I will show you that in just a second here. How do we put a fraction in simplest form? Well, first of all, 6/8 is not in simplest form, and here's how we know. Because 6 and 8 have a greatest common factor bigger than 1. To put a fraction in simplest form, here's what you do. You list all the factors for the numerator and the denominator. So the factors of 6 are all the numbers I could multiply together to equal 6. So that's 1 and 6, because 1 times 6 is 6. And it's 2 and 3, because 2 times 3 is 6. And what are all the factors of 8? Well, it's 1 and 8, because 1 times 8 is 8. And it's 2 and 4, because 2 times 4 is 8. Those are all the factors of 6 and 8. Now, we're looking for the greatest common factor, also called the GCF. And that's the biggest number that's in both lists. So the biggest number in this list is 6. The biggest number in this list is 8, but neither of those numbers are in both lists. We're looking for the biggest number that's in both lists, and the biggest number in both lists is the 2. So that's the first step to putting a fraction in simplest form. It's finding the greatest common factor. In this case, it's 2. What do we do with that greatest common factor? We divide the numerator and the denominator by that greatest common factor. So we do 6 divided by 2, and that's 3. And we do 8 divided by 2, and that's 4. So 6/8 and 4/8, those are equivalent fractions. They both mean the same thing. They represent the same value. However, 3/4 is in simplest form and 6/8 isn't. Now, how do you know 3/4 is in simplest form? Well, if we list all the factors of 3, it's just 1 and 3. And if we list all the factors of 4, it's just 1, 2, and 4. Notice there's only one number that's in both of these lists, and that's 1. So the greatest common factor of both 3 and 4 is 1. That means 3/4 is in simplest form. Let's take another example. Let's say we have another pizza. Go ahead and draw it with me. You can make it whatever toppings you like. We'll give it crust. I'm going to add pepperoni to mine. You know, sometimes nothing hits the spot better than just a pepperoni pizza. Nothing but pepperoni. And let's cut this one in 6 slices. The easiest way to do that is to cut it in thirds like this. See that? Cut it in thirds, cut it in 3 pieces, and then take each of those 3 slices and cut them each in half. Go ahead and do that with me. So now we have a pizza in 6 slices. And now, let's say you eat this slice, and you eat this slice, and you eat this slice. You eat 3 out of the 6 pieces. What fraction is that? Well, remember, a fraction has a numerator and a denominator. The denominator is the total number of slices that you started with, so that's 6. The numerator is the amount of pieces you have left, or it could be the amount of pieces you ate. In this case, we're going to do the amount of pieces we have left, 1, 2, 3. So it's 3/6. And notice that fraction would have been the same either way. Now, how do we put 3/6 in simplest form? Well, we find the greatest common factor for 3 and 6. And the way we do that is we list all the factors of 3 and we list all the factors of 6 and we identify the biggest number that's in both lists. So all the factors of 3 in the whole wide world are just 1 and 3, and that's because 3 is a prime number. It only has 2 factors. The only way that you can get 3 as the answer to a multiplication problem is by multiplying 1 times 3. So 1 and 3 are the factors of 3. And now 6. Well, 1 times 6 is 6. Whoops, I didn't need to put a comma right there. 1 time, because 6 is the biggest factor of 6. Let's cover that little comma up. So it's 1 and 6, and then 2 and 3. Because 1 times 6 is 6, and 2 times 3 is 6. Now we're looking for the biggest number that's in both lists. And what's the biggest number that's in both lists? It's 3. What do we do with that greatest common factor once we find it? We divide the numerator and the denominator by that greatest common factor. And 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. So 3/6 and 1/2, those both show the exact same value, but 1/2 is in simplest form and 3/6 isn't. And how do we know 1/2 is in simplest form? Because if we list the factors of 1, it's just 1. And if we list the factors of 2, they're just 1 and 2. And the only number that's in both lists is the 1. So 1 is the greatest common factor for the numerator and the denominator of 1/2. Let's take some other fractions. Without drawing pictures this time, let's do 9 over 27. Okay? Let's do a little bit of a harder one. So 9/27, it's a way of showing a fractional value, but the problem is it's not in simplest form. How do we put 9 over 27 in simplest form? Remember, we list the factors for the numerator and denominator. We circle the number that's the biggest number that's in both lists, and then we divide the numerator and denominator by that number. So what are the factors of 9? They're just 1, 3, and 9, because only 1 times 9 is 9, and 3 times 3 is 9. That's the only way we can get 9 as a product, as the answer to a multiplication problem. How do we get 27 as the answer to a multiplication problem? We could do 1 times 27, okay? We could also do 3 times 9, and actually that's it. That's the only way we can get 27 as the answer to a multiplication problem. 1 times 27 and 3 times 9. Now, what's the biggest number that's in both lists? Sorry, those are so spread out. It's the 9. What do we do with that greatest common factor? We divide the numerator and the denominator by the greatest common factor. What's 9 divided by 9? It's 1. What's 27 divided by 9? It's 3. So 9/27 and 1/3 are equivalent fractions. They both show the same value, but 1/3 is in simplest form. Let's do another one. Let's do 6 over 14. How do we simplify 6 over 14? Well, you list the factors of 6 and 14. The factors of 6 are 1, 2, 3, and 6. What are the factors of 14? All the numbers you can multiply together to equal 14. 1 times 14 is 14, and 2 times 7 is 14. You can't multiply anything else to equal 14. What's the biggest number that's in both lists? It's the 2. So we divide the 6 and the 14 by 2. What's 6 divided by 2? It's 3. What's 14 divided by 2? It's 7. So 3/7 is the simplest form version of 6/14. There's something else I want to show you. Let's say it's really big numbers for the numerator and the denominator. Let's say it's like 50, or let's make it a harder number. Let's make it 56, actually. 56 over, I don't know, 68. Okay? You don't have to actually find the greatest common factor to simplify a fraction. You can use any common factor, and then you'll just have to simplify it more times. Let's say it's like, I don't want to find the greatest common factor for 56 and 68. That's hard. Well, you know they're both even numbers, so they're both divisible by 2. So let's divide them both by 2. What's 56 divided by 2? Well, we can do that over here. 56 divided by 2. 2 can fit into 5 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. Bring down the 6. 2 can fit into 16 8 times, and 8 times 2 is 16. So 56 divided by 2 is 28. And now we do 68 divided by 2. And again, it might not be fun doing these long division problems on the side, but it takes perseverance. And maybe you can already tell that 68 divided by 2 is 34. 2 can fit into 6 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 minus 6 is 0. Bring down the 8. 2 can fit into 8 4 times. And then 4 times 2 is 8. Let me move my head so you can see. And 8 minus 8 is 0. So we have 28 over 34. Now, this fraction and this fraction are both equivalent fractions. But this is not in simplest form because we didn't find the greatest common factor. We just found a common factor, but not the biggest one. That's okay. All we have to do is simplify it again. These are still both even numbers, so let's divide them by 2 again. What's 28 divided by 2? It's 14. What's 34 divided by 2? Well, the 30 part of 34 divided by 2 would be 15, and the 4 part of 34 divided by 2 would be 2, so it's 15 plus 2, which is 17. And 14/17, we know that is in simplest form because 17 is a prime number, and 14 can't fit evenly into 17. So the greatest common factor for 14 and 17 would be 1, and we can check that. The factors of 14 are 1, 2, 7, and 14. And the factors of 17 are just 1 and 17. So since the biggest number in both lists is 1, that means 14/17 is in simplest form. So that was to illustrate the fact that if you're having a hard time finding the greatest common factor, the biggest of the common factors of both numbers, you can just use any common factor. You can use, well, you can't use 1, but any common factor greater than 1, you can use that. And then you just have to simplify it more than one time, maybe twice, maybe 3 times, maybe 4 times. But eventually, if you just keep simplifying it, even if you don't use the greatest common factor, if you just keep doing it, you'll get to the simplest form version. So that's another strategy. All right, go ahead and do your very best on the quiz, which is attached beneath this video in the Math Google Classroom. Actually, let me just go over it with you really fast. This is the quiz for today's, no, that's not it. I guess I have the wrong quiz attached here. So I can't actually go over the quiz with you, but still go ahead and do today's quiz inside the Math Google Classroom, and I will catch you next time. This is Mr. Dauber signing off.